This is Sunset News. We bring you the latest local news, international news of the day, stories for the community, tomorrow's weather, economic indicators, and sports news. I am Glenora Shipura. Now, in the news tonight, with judgment slated for today, Thomas Adolf Florin's daughter has strongly objected to her father's High Court bid for early release from prison. Now, in an emotional interview published earlier this week, Jacqueline, last name not provided, told German online newspaper Ben Kurier Thomas Florin, did something so horrible he should still have to pay for it in prison for a long time. The debt is not paid yet. She was speaking ahead of today's expected judgment in which High Court Judge Shafamina Uitele will decide on Florin's application to be released early. Now, in our next story, Police Chief Inspector Christina van Dundem Davonschek's mission to the north, where she was sent to crack down on fake churches and traditional healers, has been cut short after Hangwena's Police Regional Commissioner Elizabeth Sibolile chased her out of the region. Now, Davonschek was on a 2-week mission assigned by Police Inspector General Sebastian Deitunga to root out pastors of fake churches and to engage as well as to educate the community in order not to fall prey to these churches. She also used the platform to educate the pastors of the churches to follow the correct procedure when starting a place of worship and to make sure they are registered. Now, Davonschek also told the pastors that they need to study theology for at least 4 years before they can be called priests. Now, on Tuesday last week, Davonschek closed down the True Gospel Ministry at Oshikango Town and Full Gospel Church of God at Omupindi Village. She also went undercover and caught a fake Zimbabwean healer who has been operating at Enana for 15 years. Her trip and blockbuster moves were covered by the media, which reportedly irritated Sibolile. A recent angling tour to the Kunene River mouth via the Skeleton Coast Park turned into a historic adventure when all 7 rivers were in flood. Now, the tour also revealed a lot of these enigmatic region secrets regarding not only the shipwrecks and plane wrecks, but also old mining equipment from bygone era left behind. A shelter which was built 80 years ago to shelter 42 shipwrecked passengers and crew from the Dundee Star for 2 weeks was also visited. Now, when the COVID-19 pandemic almost brought their tourism business to a standstill, Elle-Marie and Franz Duran had to think out of the box to survive. Now, Elle-Marie saw it as her opportunity to realize a lifelong dream, to be the owner of a deli. She named it Happiness is Homemade. Through using her talent as a skilled cook, she started to make gems, preserve food in glass bottles, as well as preparing cooked meals for those who are too busy to cook. 7 months since opening, the Durans are now not looking back, while the tourism industry is also expected to also start lifting its head this year. Now, the lion population in the northwestern regions of Namibia continues to decline, and thus the fate of the desert-adapted lions hangs by a thread. Ink Mant, member and activist of the DELA, this week returned from a 2-month monitoring tour of the desert-adapted lions in the Kunene region. Her conclusion sounds grim. In light of observation and known deaths, we have revised our estimate of the population of desert-adapted lions from 45 to 55 down to 35 to 45. Now, while the transaction still regarded with great skepticism, whereby the National Petroleum Corporation of Namibia sold half of its 10% share in the factually worthless Namibian subsidiary of Reconnaissance Energy Africa to the Canadian mother company in exchange for shares in that company registered in the Canadian Stock Exchange, environmentalists and activists are training their sights on the offshore oil discovery reported by Shell and its Quaternion partners, as well as NAMCOR. Now, the Environmental Investment Fund and MTC to establish a gene bank. More on this story when we come back with Community Talk. Welcome back to Sunset News. Let's have a look at Community Talk. Now, the Environmental Investment Fund and MTC have joined forces to establish the National Gene Bank in the Kavango West region at the Sarukwe village. Here's more.
The Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia and MTC announced the sponsorship of a national gene bank for the establishment of a community seed bank in the Kavango West region at the Sarukwe village. This announcement comes after the signing of an agreement in September last year to work together in future on corporate socially responsible and investment programs, with specific focus on environmental, sustainability and nature. The agreement covers 3 areas, namely the seed bank initiative itself, a cleaning campaign and an early warning system in the Kunene region. The EIF and MTC jointly availed $400,000 for the establishment of the seed bank. Speaking at the event, the new Director of Forestry from the Ministry, John Ndukosho, narrated the importance of the NBRI, the National Botanic Research Institute, and its role that it plays in preserving the genetic natural resources. Delivering remarks on behalf of the EIF, Chief Executive Benedict Labanda said that the seed bank must be supported as it safeguards tomorrow's diversity. He said that humanity's future depends on the diversity of the species living on our planet, as they provide present and future generations with a food source and a healthy environment. Representing MTC, Tim Okanjo said that his company believes that environmental sustainability is everybody's responsibility. Also present at the event was Environmental Commissioner Timotheus Mufete, who reiterated government's commitment to the conservation of natural resources and more specifically the nation's genetic resources. He indicated that this partnership would go a long way in assisting to build on the 5,000 genetic seeds that are already stored at the NBRI.
Understanding conservation and sustainable use of Namibia's plants for the benefit of all. The National Gene Bank, which is part of the National Botanical Research Institute, plays an integral part in realizing this mission. By collecting and preserving plant genetic resources, namely mostly seeds.
Now, app developer John Roxon chats to Yolanda Nell about his first app for the local market that can be used by anyone visiting Etosha National Park. Let's have a look.
You are talking app development. Quickly tell us, how did you go into developing apps?
I was visiting Namibia last year in October, and I visited Etosha, and it popped my mind and said, okay, wait, this can't be. I'm walking here with mammal guides books, with bird guides books, reptile books, and I still have to walk to the gates to actually see the gates times, and you have to walk to each camp to see the sites which have been recorded yesterday. And I said, no, this is just shouting for me for a digital solution. And I've checked in the App Store, there's nothing with Etosha. I've checked in the Android Store, there's nothing with Etosha. And then I decided, okay, let's just give it a try.
So who should be using the Etosha app?
That's a good question. Like, especially in the app development, everybody's asking you, who's your target group? And it's difficult to answer because my first feeling was, okay, mostly tourists, about 50 years self-driving people. But I didn't want to target only these people. Like, my aim was to target any Etosha visitor. So because I didn't want to just develop something for tourists, I wanted to develop it for anybody who is visiting Etosha.
Economic news after the break. Welcome back to Sunset News. Now let's take a look at our economic news. Now, after years of drought in Namibia, the above-average rainfall from the La Nina phenomenon is expected to improve livestock production. According to a report by Simon Storm, the agricultural sector is likely to post positive growth as livestock production accounts for about 40% of the sector. Now, apart from the rainfall effect, rising meat prices as well as the improvement in cattle marketing will provide incentive for additional restocking in 2022. Now, in January 2022, on an annual basis, cattle marketing increased by 41.6%, sheep 20.9%, goats 85.7%, and pigs 8.3%. Over the same period, average cattle auction prices increased from 49.83 kg to 56.21 kg, an increase of 12.8%, providing further incentive to farmers to restock after the drought experience in earlier years. Now, live cattle exports increased by 21.6%, sheep 215.5%, and pigs 123.6%, Philopus Usiku reports. Now let's take a look at our economic indicators. Now the Namibian dollar is up against the Chinese yuan, but down against all other major currencies. On the NSX, MTC shares are down and Capricorn stock is up. SBN holdings are down, Trustco shares are up, and both the local as well as the overall index are down. Gold is up, oil is up with nearly 4%, and both copper and zinc are down. After the break, we'll take a look at tomorrow's weather. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Sunset News. Now let's take a look at our weather predictions. Hobabas is the coolest place in northern and eastern Namibia tomorrow with a morning temperature of 15 degrees. Thunder showers are still predicted for the north. The central coast varies between 17 and 23 degrees. In the south, Rehoboth is the coolest at 15 degrees and Marienthal is the hottest at 37 degrees. Now, this morning, Russia invaded parts of Ukraine. In our international news, we look at the situation there. Stay with us.
Join the club, the Infinity Club with Paratus, and jump into a world of limitless connectivity. For only $599 per month excluding VAT, the new LTE Infinity Lite package that includes a Wingle will overcome all limitations. Visit paratus.africa/NA for more information.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.
Welcome back to Sunset News. Now let's take a look at our international news story. Now, Russian forces invaded Ukraine by land, air and sea this morning, confirming the worst fears of the West with the biggest attack by one state against another in Europe since World War II. Now, Russian missiles rained down on Ukrainian cities. Ukraine reported columns of troops pouring across its borders into the eastern Chernihiv, Kharkiv, and Luhansk regions and landing by sea at the port cities of Odessa and Mariupol in the south. Now, explosions could be heard before dawn in the capital, Kyiv. Gunfire rattle sirens bled across the city, and the highway out became choked with traffic as residents tried to flee. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kremlin's leader Vladimir Putin's aim was to destroy his state. Now, initial reports of casualties were sporadic and unconfirmed. Ukraine reported at least 8 people killed by Russian shelling and 3 border guards killed in the southern Kherson region. In a televised declaration of war in the early hours, Putin said he had ordered a special military operation to protect people, including Russian citizens, subjected to genocide in Ukraine, and accusation in the West calls absurd propaganda. And for this, we will strive for the demilitarization and de-Russification of Ukraine, Putin said. Now, Russia cannot feel safe, developed, and exist with a constant threat emanating from the territory of modern Ukraine. All responsibility for bloodshed will be on the conscience of the ruling regime in Ukraine. Now, let's have a look at this video by Reuters.
Russia has invaded Ukraine. Explosions rang out in the capital Kiev and other cities on Thursday. They came after Russia's president ordered a military operation into Ukraine's east. A Reuters witness heard blasts only minutes after President Vladimir Putin spoke on live TV. There he framed Russia's move as an act of defense.
I decided to conduct a special military operation. It aims to protect people who have been bullied and subjected to genocide by the Kiev regime for 8 years. For that, we will strive to demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, and will bring to justice those who committed multiple bloody crimes against civilians, including Russian citizens.
It's not clear just how big Russia's operation might be, but it appeared to go beyond helping Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine. Russian forces fired missiles at several cities and landed troops on Ukraine's southern coast. In the capital, explosions were heard and gunfire crackled near the main airport. The US and its allies have been quick to condemn Russia's actions. President Joe Biden said he would meet the leaders of G7 to map out more severe measures against Russia, adding that, quote, Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction this attack will bring. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made a last-minute plea to Putin to stop the war in the name of humanity.
Bring your troops back to Russia.
Biden has spoken to Ukraine's president, who announced that martial law will be introduced on all territories of the state. Ukraine dismisses Russia's claims of genocide, calling them invented. It has also said Putin was looking for an artificial pretext to attack it. Russia has been demanding an end to NATO's eastward expansion. Putin's actions came hours after a plea issued by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine to Moscow for help in stopping alleged aggression from Kiev. Claims the US has dismissed as Russian propaganda and which Kiev denies.
Sport news follows right after the break. Do stay tuned. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Now let's take a look at our sports stories. Now, ahead of this weekend's annual general meeting, there is a growing discontent among local female netball administrators over the increasing involvement and occupation of critical positions at Commerce Netball by males. Now, the Namibian Paralympic Committee is sending a group of 6 athletes and 1 guide to the Winelands International, slated for 26 February in Stellenbosch, South Africa. Now, the Namibian athletes are Bradley Murere, Petrus Karuli, Johanna Benson, Martha Haitukulite, Roddy Hawasep, Chris Kinda, and Rewalde Hawasep. The Copper Queens of Zambia pipped the Brave Gladiators to a ticket to the Africa Women Cup of Nations in Morocco on Tuesday. Zanetta Coleman said that she is very heartbroken, but that the team will rise from this defeat, she said. Stay tuned, highlights follows after the break. Welcome back to Sunset News. And if you're just joining us, here are the highlights. With judgment slated for today, Thomas Adolf Florin's daughter has strongly objected to her father's High Court bid for early release from prison. In an emotional interview published earlier this week, Jacqueline, last name not provided, told German online newspaper Ben Kurier he, Thomas Florin, did something so horrible he should still have to pay for it in prison for a long time. The debt is not yet paid, she said. Now, the police chief inspector Christina van Dundem Davonschek's mission to the north, where she was sent to crack down on fake churches and traditional healers, has been cut short after Ohangwena's police regional commander commissioner Elizabeth Sibolilis chased her out of the region. On Tuesday last week, Davonschek closed down the True Gospel Ministry at Oshikango Town and Full Gospel Church of God at the Omupindi village. Her trip and blockbuster moves were covered by the media, which reportedly irritated Sibolile. Now, a recent angling tour to the Kunene River mouth via the Skeleton Coast Park turned into an historic adventure when all 7 rivers were in flood. Now, the tour also revealed a lot of this enigmatic region's secrets regarding not only the shipwrecks and plane wrecks, but also old mining equipment from bygone era left behind. And that's it from us. And with that, we've come to the end of the show. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook and all the NMH website on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneup2.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 and on GoTV channel 94 every weekday from 7:30 to 8 p.m. I am Glenn Rashipura, and this is Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.